Video demonstration. This exercise is a first step to learning how to tackle the unexpectedly overwhelming concept that is texture in detail. We'll start out by learning to study a reference image and to work past our all too human instinct to throw away critical visual information. I can cut that out. Then we'll explore applying what we've learned from our reference image as a tool not bound by how it is presented and arranged in the reference, but in full control, using it to convey information exactly as is needed to get an idea across to our audience. Remember, you should be doing this exercise with a fine liner felt tip pen. If you're having trouble filling in the dark areas, a black brush pen can also be very useful. I have a pen that I can use for that I will show you. Your page will be arranged into a very specific layout as shown here. You'll have a number of rows. Each row will be roughly 2.5 inches tall, starting with a square of that height and width on the left. The rest of the width of the page, I'm recommending 8.5 by 11 printer paper. You'll have to change the sizes around if you're working in paper of a different size. Will be split into 2 rectangles, more or less of equal size. You are welcome to work with your page in landscape orientation, 11 by 8.5 in this case, so you'll end up with 3 or so rows, though I'll leave that decision up to you. Notice how the rectangle on the end there has a bit of a black bar on its left side. Make sure you fill this in with solid black. It doesn't need to be too thick, just enough to be significant. So you want your page to maybe look something like this, which I'll have to set up because I didn't realize I'd need to do that. Now, fried chicken. I wish that was a segment. Each row is going to pertain to a different texture and is going to require a different set of reference photos. You can use one, but it's better to use several photos of the same sort of thing just to arm yourself with that much more visual information to draw from. Keep in mind that when we say texture, we're referring to a very specific thing. Texture is the stuff that wraps around your major forms. Technically, texture itself is made up of small forms, and the marks you see are all made up of the shadows cast by these forms, as mentioned in the pitfalls listed above. But they are at such a scale that they are not impacted by any sort of perspective distortion. For example, bricks are not a texture. Bricks are at best a pattern. The material of the bricks, however, with all their little pocks and marks and grit, is certainly a texture. Similarly, nose is not a texture, but skin, complete with pores and hairs and zits and whatever else, is. As you can see from this image, I've chosen some fried chicken. I got this reference image from the Epicurious recipe for rosemary brined buttermilk fried chicken in case you're hungry. Do we need to make chicken? Do we need to make chicken?
I'm not big on fried chicken.
Oh, well, that's sad. Anyways, in the first square, we try to do a direct study from our reference. That is, we try and capture exactly what we see down to all the finest details. You should be focusing entirely on drawing the shadows you see, not outlining individual forms or drawing them directly. Take your time, study the reference image, and zero in on specific details. Then move to your drawing and put down only a few key strokes before returning to your image. Don't rely on memory because our human memory is not trustworthy. It will oversimplify things very quickly, resulting in textures that feel cartoony. As you do your study, or after completing it, whichever works best for you, take some notes down in the neighboring square. These can consist of writing, drawings, etc., trying to distill the major aspects of what gives this texture its particular appearance. And this is an example. Now, this part is not to be done until you've done the last 2 steps for all rows on your page. Oh, okay. At this point, you should have gotten a decent amount of mileage purely observing and studying textures. Now we get to learn how to organize it and use it for our own purposes. The left side of this texture has a thick black bar on it. Imagine that the right side has an equally thick white bar. Where no lines may be drawn. In between these two bars, I want you to use your texture to transition from black to white, left to right. I'd recommend starting towards the center, as this is where you're going to get the most detail due to the balance of light and dark. As you move to the left, let your shadows deepen and grow larger, and make sure they blend seamlessly into the black bar. As you move to the right, let your shadows get blasted out as they get closer to the light source, leaving only those in the deepest cracks where textural forms meet. You will probably have the urge to outline the forms you see. Don't! We're not working in line at all, we're only drawing the shadows cast by the little forms that exist along the surface of our object. The purpose of this exercise. This exercise has two major purposes. First, to get you to start thinking about how you observe and study your references. And second, to get you to start working on how you organize that information. Learning this stuff generally works in those two phases. First, you only really need to care about transferring information, building up an awareness of the shortcomings of human memory and how to work around that. Once that's under some degree of control, we start thinking about what information we actually need to be conveying to the audience to achieve our goals for a given drawing, focusing on which shadows to draw and where to place them. Alright. Mistake. Scribbling. This image is barely even necessary, but to put it simply, don't scribble. Don't rely on randomness or chaos. You may find a texture that feels like it's just a bunch of nonsense, crazy, chaotic marks. It's not. It never is. There's always some sort of rhythm to them, a flow that they follow because that's how the physical world works. Even mussed up hair is going to flow in a particular fashion as the strands of hair group into shocks and clumps. If you're about to scribble, stop and think. Go back to studying your reference and look more closely. Mistake. Drawing the forms of a texture. Textures are, as previously discussed, made up of little forms that exist along the surface of a larger one. Make sure you're not outlining and enclosing all of those forms, however. Instead of drawing the forms themselves, you should be drawing the impact they have on their surroundings. That is, the shadow they cast. I'm really trying to burp as quietly as humanly possible. Oh, let me show you the picture again. It's a good thing there's hardly anybody here. Okay, is this the last mistake? Yep, okay, good. Mistake. No transition from dense to sparse. The biggest challenge for those who are new to texture is breaking away from using lines to enclose and outline their textural forms. It's important to realize that lines don't actually exist. They're a tool we employ, and they are very effective at demonstrating the borders between the volumes of our forms. They work very well when dealing with general construction, but once we get into situations where we have a lot of tiny forms that run along the surface of our major constructed forms, this tool becomes much less effective. It can quickly result in a lot of lines crammed close together, creating high contrast, visually noisy areas that turn into unintended focal points that draw the viewer's eye. Of course, we've discussed this previously. The solution is to rely on cast shadow instead. This does not mean drawing in our textual forms with line first, then applying shadows. It means relying purely on shadows only, and allowing there to be edges that get lost and found throughout our texture. This happens because the shadows where two forms meet, like two scales coming together, will generally be much deeper since light has more difficulty penetrating these crevices. As the amount of light increases, the shadows on external edges will disappear much sooner than those in the deep cracks, causing those edges to get lost and then be found once again. This is extremely useful because it allows us to punch gaps in our textures, providing a means to transition from densely packed areas of black ink to areas where there are mostly just left blank. Additionally, using this approach allows us to imply a lot more information without actually having to draw it all. As we move further to the right side, where the texture is left sparse, the viewer's brain will fill in most of the detail there. If instead we were to outline everything in its entirety, we'd be telling the viewer that every single piece of information that has been drawn exists, and that there is nothing that exists that has not been drawn. There is no room left for implied detail. Everything is instead entirely explicit. That is an inflexible way of working and should be avoided. So here we have this really long image. So this is what we're going for today. I'm out of soda. Alright, so example homework. Once you're done, this is roughly what your page should be looking at. Or roughly what you should be looking at. Ha. Don't worry about whether or not you're getting it. This is just a start to get you thinking about how you go about observing and studying your reference, and how you organize the information in your head before using it in your drawings. So this is what we're going for. So on the left, we draw everything, and then we take notes, and then we do the light to dark transition. So there's some resources. Everything has a texture, but some people do find it a little challenging at first to recognize this, and as such you may struggle with finding resources to work from. As a starting point, you can use this Pinterest board by Ryan Malm. Alternatively, I always find Google Images search to be particularly useful, especially due to the search tools where you can limit your search to high resolution results. Okay, so we're going to work on this, and let me see. And I'm going to use this to help. I just need to find some images. So we're going to go into Google Images. We're going to ignore all those. So let's look at see what texture gives us. And then we're going to go into settings, and we're going to go into advanced search. We're going to filter explicit results. We want large. Okay, so let's see what. Ooh, crumpled paper. Aren't we supposed to do the first one as crumpled paper?
Is that not the case?
Isn't that what you wrote in the instructions?
Yeah.
Your example doesn't use crumpled paper.
Well, that's because it's an old-ass example. It's something I actually added recently at the beginning of February.
I don't think it's on this page. I think it's on this page.
Yeah, it's on the assignment. No, go down. All the way down.
Yeah, here it is. Your first texture will be crumpled paper.
The thing is, I don't want to show them exactly how to do it, so they copy it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be updating that image, at least not to show this.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
might still update the image at some point,
So I guess they're gonna look for some crumpled paper for me to draw.
Or you can crumple some paper.
Well, I don't want to do that because I don't want like the sun is setting.
Oh, the lighting will change.
Yeah.
That's fair.
We're gonna try and find something that doesn't have a watermark. I think I like this black one. So I'm just gonna drop it over here.
Yeah, I guess that works. You just have to be, you know, particularly aware of the fact that you're still drawing in black and white.
Should I get more than one example?
No. You're drawing it from observation, so.
Oh, okay. Alright, so we got this right here, and I'll just slap more textures on it as I go. Alright, so right over here. Can you turn on the light?
How much effect that's gonna have.
It has a little effect. I'm going to go grab the ruler and some snacky doos. Something about eating Oreos without milk feels wrong. Doing it anyways. I'm sorry if you can hear me chewing. Okay. So, we're supposed to set up the page. Three rows, 2.5 inches tall. it's just a little bit too long to be comfortable. I mean, this might be how it fits. So we want this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Give me a tight fit. Okay, okay. Does she remember how to use a ruler? Let's find out. Maybe not. Alright, it's close enough. We're just working with what we got. Really should have made these dots in a better place. But this is where we are. This is the longest part. I should fast forward through this in my edits. We'll see if I remember to do it. Oops. Hold on, wait a second. that? Oh, I forgot a little bit. Okay. Well, this won't be perfectly square, but that's okay. And then we need 2 more rectangles. How about maybe there? Oops. Y'all gonna love this. Yeah, that looks good. I keep just dropping the ruler. You know, this should really be a printout.
Nope.
You're so...
I find that maybe not for you right now because you're streaming, but generally when students are forced to go through the process of laying out their sheet for different exercises, it can help transition them from an otherwise like, you know, I'm doing all this shit and I'm so busy and blah, 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 to a more almost focused, meditative mindset.
Mm.
So people often say, "Oh, I made this worksheet and you know, here you should host this." I don't because I think it takes away from something that can be quite valuable.
I can see that.
But of course, you're trying to entertain people on a stream, so.
Oh, I'm not entertaining nobody. Y'all on your own if you want entertainment. You can play like some Benny Hill theme songs or something. I don't care. My phone. I think one of the problems that people tend to have is that when they're presented with all the information for a lesson, it's so much. And it feels like it's going to be impossible to break down into smaller bites.
Yep.
But that's something people have to train themselves how to do, because they have to be able to do that in like their working life too.
Yeah, it's a basic learning skill that, you don't necessarily start off with. It's the same thing as, like, if you struggle, like, we have a lot of exercises, including this one, that people struggle with because they're just legitimately hard. And I don't expect students to be able to nail this exercise with any degree of success sometimes. Like, they'll succeed at varying degrees, and some of them will just bomb it completely, and that's kind of fine, because I'm just introducing you to a concept right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not testing you. It's just planting a seed in your head so that you start thinking about this as you move forwards. And sometimes students just have a complete roadblock when they're basically being made to do something that they'll probably fail at. And the fact of the matter is that whether or not you fail at it, whether or not it's frustrating, that's a problem that you need to learn to deal with. Because at the end of the day, it is just a task that you're accomplishing. And no one's got a rubric for how well you need to do it in order to complete the lesson and move on. You just need to get through it.
I think school reinforces the bad idea that if you fail something, you failed as like a person.
Yeah, they take it, you're trained to take it really personally.
And a lot of times in school, you can't redo something once you failed. And once you failed that thing, every step becomes harder afterwards, because the teacher themselves, they don't have time to necessarily sit with you and actually get you to the point where you don't fail that thing anymore. Yeah. They just have to move on without you. And it doesn't apply here, because you can just sit there and keep failing over and over again, and that's fine.
Of course, you're not recommended to do that. It's not just recommended. You are told to move on here, but because it won't hold you back.
Yeah, but you'll also be able to come back.
Yeah, you can always revisit it. You should in your warm-ups, but you shouldn't just sit there and grind it until you feel satisfied, because your satisfaction is irrelevant.
There's also not, with Drawabox, the expectation that everybody's going to finish at the same level of skill.
Yeah. It's all about taking someone from where they are to further rather than comparing them to someone else.
Yeah. It's a very like self-motivated, self-measuring type of journey thing.
Yep.
But people just tend to look at what other people are doing and going, why aren't I there? Okay. So we're supposed to do crumpled paper first, and it's not in the example image, because he doesn't want you guys trying to copy just the example image. That doesn't help you. Don't save. Okay, so I've got my paper. This is my paper. And we're gonna go back and forth over and over. Oh God. Now I just realized I have no idea what I'm doing. Put this plate over here. Oh, now I just want more Oreos. I've been at this for an hour now, and all I've done is make the worksheet and read. This is gonna be one of them long boys. Okay, so go back and look at the instructions. Take your time, study the reference image, and zero in on specific details, then move to your drawing and put down only a few keystrokes before returning to your image. Okay. So I think I'm gonna need another pen. Nope, not that one. Did we never put my pen away? Oh. Oh, you know what? It's on the coffee table. Ugh. I was thinking about when we were talking about pens, maybe we took it out and never put it away.
Oh.
And yeah, this twin marker is the one that smells really, really bad of Sharpie. Like this one kind of has it, but this one will smack you in the face. Okay, so now everybody has to try and watch me struggle to draw crumpled paper. And we're only drawing the shadows, not the forms. Why does this feel so hard? I feel like I should maybe pick like a square area to do this in. So all right. So now I've made a square. You can't really see it. 'Cause I made this square. I'm gonna focus on this square. Okay. So I'm not going to use my Drawabox pen to fill in all this black space because I have like 19 pens that I can be using. And I don't want to wear out the tip of my Drawabox pen. I already know that the ink itself will last a very long time and the tip's pretty durable too, but I'm just going to avoid wearing it out if I can. So the paper I'm looking at doesn't have a lot of hard folds. It has soft folds. But they tend to go in fairly straight lines. Not too wavy. Okay. Now I have this. Which is not reassuring. So have like a line there. from out here, there's a little line like this. So I'm going like back and forth and back and forth. And it's a good thing I don't have to do this perfectly, or I would cry. We're going to go up a little bit. I'm going to try and draw less of the line. And then, right, like around here, there's this diamond shape. So basically, every time I'm not drawing, I'm actually looking at the image. Let's actually bring this down so you can see a little better. So what we have is this big black space right here. So, I'm going to choose to believe that I'm doing okay. And I've got this big black space to fill in, which is very, very scary. But oh well. Just gonna do it. so let's look and see if there's anywhere where we can kind of improve this. Okay. Some more black. Kind of interesting to look at. So up here we have this. We also have this sort of triangles. There's some triangles. What am I looking at? Okay. Crumpled paper kind of looks like a rock.
Yeah, a little bit. A really shitty rock.
Yeah, shitty rocks need love too.
Disagree.
Well, just because you want to invite them into your home.
Wait, are you talking about the rock?
Wait, what?
Is there like a shitty rock now? Like a shitty Dwayne The Rock Johnson?
I don't think such a thing is allowed to exist. Okay. So I'm gonna say that's crumpled paper. How do I zoom out? Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. Nope, wrong thing. Just gonna move that over there. So now we have to make some notes. What other things can we observe? I'm going to say that's okay. Now, let's find a new texture. So we've got snake skin. That's not a texture, that's a pattern. Oh no, they're applying texture. Oh, what's this? Not a good picture. So I guess wood grain would be a pattern in this sense.
Yes. Wood itself has a texture.
Yeah.
Wood grain is, in a lot of ways, a pattern because it is just discoloration.
Yeah. I mean, for like the purpose of what we're doing, wood grain would be considered more of a pattern than a texture. This is a pattern. Oh wait, you can't see my mouse. Alright, let's try typing in nature. Oh, now we got some stuff. that's one. How did I do this? There we go.
Oh, was that?
I don't know yet. Nope, that was the weather.
That's weird.
Yeah, she hasn't texted me back. Okay, so that's one. We're gonna do mud. I like mud. I spent a lot of time with mud. I'd like to think that we're friends. And I only need one more. Let's try an animal texture. So we'll go up and we'll just type in animal.
Just don't do fish.
Why?
I mean a literal wallpaper of fish.
Oh, no. Most of what shows up is reptiles.
Yeah, reptiles are good. Maybe
That.
like alligator skin?
Yeah, there's alligator skin, I think. I don't like this one though, because it's got like, I think those are weird shadows from some other light source, like a tree hanging over it or something. It's like a, here's like an elephant armpit. Or a tortoise shell. We're not doing fur because I love myself. There we go. Some alligator skins. I like this one. So there we go. Just gonna shrink that for now because I want to start with the mud. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at. And boop. Okay, back to this. So then we make a square, and then we take notes. We make a square, then we take notes, and then we do the light to dark. And before we do the light to dark, I'll have to add the black bar. Oh, God. My arms are so sore. Okay, so for the clay, it's just making it more of a box. So we have, we're going to start with like a shape up here. Sort of like a, it's almost square, but it gets a little loby, so it's, these aren't straight edges. I'm just constantly going back and forth, back and forth. Try to make everything intentional. And there's this fairly large crevice between here, between each shapes. Goes all the way through, and then it's still textured up to here, but it's not dark all the way down, so we're gonna make like this. I'm gonna say yes. This is kind of so there's this like sort of brief outline. Here, goes in a little bit, and then we're going to fill this in. So, the masses of the clay have the darkest shadows right between the plates, but there are also hairline cracks on the surface of those large separated chunks. I don't know what I'll do here. It's all very dark, so maybe something like that. Okay, so then we have this coming down and sort of curving, and this has some branches. Most of them are small. But in this middle section, it grows deeper. And there's a few little specks along the surface. Okay. And then we have a big crack coming up along like this. Because this is actually its own section. It's actually going to stay divided here from the other piece. So basically it's making these small islands. And in between each island is an infinite abyss. Okay, and then on the surface there are cracks. Formations. Okay. So now up and then down. Little pick. Then do. And all around this is shadow. Of varying depths. Or widths, actually, is what I wanted to say. Okay, so on this surface there are some of these scattered things. There are some hairline cracks coming down from here. And some other cracks. And their width varies too, but they tend to have plenty of small cracks coming off of them in different places. This one has some of them forming some triangles. And there's a bit of a sandy texture. So there's some little divots. Over here is a big chunk. Okay. What am I looking at? What are you? What is this shape that I made?
there's bugbears.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure those are copywritten.
Yeah, they are. Well, trademark. What about rug bears?
Bears disguising themselves as rugs.
Yeah, someone commented on the Ogma.
I saw that comment.
Yeah.
So now you want me to invent rug bears?
Well, I mean, I do the drawing of the journal pages. I feel like it's up to me.
Oh, I mean. Yeah, I guess on the journal pages you pretty much have done things by yourself.
Well, you came up with a lot of the ideas.
Yeah. And then you stopped needing me?
Still need you to do potatoes and write all the damn story.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's good. That looks like the picture. Kind of.
So I like that. How you've left like a little bit.
Yeah.
One thing that people often do and that you're doing everywhere else. They'll fill in gaps.
Mm-hmm.
And a shadow doesn't inherently just fill in a gap. The gap exists and the shadow is cast into it. So there's like thought about, well, where does the shadow actually hit based on where your light source is. So you don't always necessarily fill in gaps fully. There are cases where you do, but
Oh, nope, she's gonna come over tomorrow. Okay. I see what you mean. I'm making my little notes. I swear to goodness, if she somehow gets me sick, I will be so upset. Oh my gosh. I need to silence my phone now. This is why I normally keep my phone on silent. Which is also why I always miss important phone calls. Okay. One last one of these, and then I have to do the light to dark transitions. Oh boy, howdy. So we have this image right here, which I believe is something like the top of the alligator along its back, which isn't normally, I think, yeah, so it's along its back, but I want to say this is more like the side rather than the top of its back. If I know anything about alligators.
Let's see alligator's back.
Yeah, but I don't think it's actually the top of the back. It's the side. Because they're like, if the alligator is a tube.
Well, yeah, that's the side, that's the back.
Yeah. So it's more closer to the side than the top of the alligator.
That's
Well, I was thinking about all the alligator, like, backpacks and handbags that I see. And usually it's just the top or just the belly, maybe, of the gator that they use to make, you know, shoes out of. Because it's got that nice sort of oval to its repeating pattern, and it doesn't have such high ridges.
I kind of want to eat that. Just like peel it off like chips.
No.
No?
Do not potato chip the alligator. It's bad enough that I used to like feed them marshmallows as a child. Don't lead by my example. Anyways, this is the image. And I'm using Pure Ref because it's really good. And I have giant mood boards now all over the place. So. Oh, Jesus. So, that's so weird. Okay, so what I see, well, that's unfortunate. My pen bleeds through when I use it to fill in large spaces. Well, now we know. So the alligator has these sort of scales that are shaped like a house. And you can see that they're outlined on its body, but we don't necessarily want to draw that entire outline every time. And then in the center are these little nubby boys. And they have a little bit of puckering texture on them. Interesting. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. Okay, so these are all right alongside each other, but there's this triangle. So there's also these kind of rounded, turned up parts. So it's like this part here where this little bean is, it's like actually sunken, and then it goes up. That's weird. That's weird, and we have to live with that now. Gosh, alligators are weird. I feel like I'm just drawing beans and eyes, or eye beans. So the ones at the edge end in a round. So it still houses, but it rounds. Okay. So I'm making like a stripe in this middle, and then I'm just gonna branch out from there because this is actually it's not like perfect or symmetrical, but it is a repeating pattern. So the same principle of this middle one applies to all these ones going outwards. Oh, you know what I can do? Oh, okay. Okay, I have a thought now. This is hard. I've been here for 2 hours. I need some water. What? Falling asleep. I'm gonna eat more Oreos. I accept my cookie fate. I was listening to this thing and they mentioned how a lot of snacks are designed in such a way that they're small enough to where when you finish eating one, you finish eating in the time it takes for you to reach for another. So that way you don't actually pause and go, oh, I'm still chewing and I should stop. Because if you stop that motion, you might stop eating them. All right, now that I'm not munching on cookies. I realized I was muted when I was responding to Hyperborean Baby. Oh well. Yeah, oh well. Because I was chewing cookies and I didn't want to make people listen to me crunching.
Are you muted now?
No.
So they can hear your...
Yeah, but I'm not going to respond again. It's too late and they're probably gone.
What was the question?
No, they were just commenting that this looks like mouths.
Oh. Oh, yeah.
So this middle one is kind of bad, but like if I did the same thing here that you were talking about here, and I made like a sandwich, then it makes like a sandwich, you know, like the sandwich transition, and so it's on these.
Well, we'll go more over it in the actual critique.
Yeah. Which is like a year away. Actually, things might get done faster if I keep having to be stuck at home.
Oh yeah, and you're not far from finishing that exercise. Like, you might not get it done today, but...
Actually, I've been doing this for 2 hours. I should actually stop.
Just doing your notes?
Yeah.
That's fair.
Okay. That's all I'm going to do today. So tomorrow we're going to fill all these boxes with the light to dark texture. So let me just manually zoom out. So what we have is the crumpled paper, the clay, floor, landscape, and alligator skin. So yeah, so tomorrow we'll do the light to dark transition because I have other stuff to do. 2 hours is plenty of time. And at least we won't have to do any reading tomorrow, so we can start right away.